Thank you, Francisca. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, John. So once again, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. Already I feel that this month, this day, has moved and shifted into a higher consciousness. That there has been some crud, some virus that's been making itself around, visiting all the good people that I know. And it's just the illusion of what's going on, but it's not the truth of who we are. And so we show up in this day, in this place, in this time, to be that perfect, whole, complete being that is our destiny to be. For each of us is an individualized expression of the divine spirit. Therefore, it is in our nature to be that wholeness and that perfection, and to express it into time and space and into the physical, material universe in which we live, knowing that all the while we are a part of something greater, a larger mental universe, an atmosphere, call it the mind of God or whatever you may call it, that we live within and hold the perfection, the pattern of perfection of who we are, that which is eternal and infinite and continues onward and upward forever in an up spiral of good. And so today we acknowledge that, we honor that, and we step more into that as we come together in celebration. As John mentioned, we're using the theme this year for our message using the Science of Mind textbook, studying the Science of Mind textbook in a year. And I've said this throughout the time that we started this, is that if you were to pick up this textbook and begin to read it from the front of the cover to the back, you might find yourself confused. You might find yourself disillusioned. You might find yourself saying, and what was Ernest Holmes trying to say in the first place? Part of the reason of that is because these are a compilation of lectures that were transcribed and later put into a book and have been, slightly modified throughout time. And so, there may be some, dialogue, some current language that Ernest Holmes was using at that time in which he originally wrote this in the 20s and the 30s. I know that there's a lot of women that say, well, everything he refers to as him, and the masculine. Where's the feminine in that? But the truth of it is that we know that God is all that there is. So it's not male or female, it is just all. And so we have this opportunity, if you choose, to daily take one little paragraph, one page, one section, and read it and begin to study and move forward into that idea of what is the Science of Mind text all about. I thought, where is John going with this evil thing? Because that is not part of our philosophy. So we actually promote that in our philosophy, that there is no heaven and there is no hell, that there just is, and that we create it in our thinking, in our pattern, our own experience, through the choice of how it is that we want to express. So in some way, somewhere, somehow, and not just individually, but collectively, we begin to create what we desire in life. Do we want heaven or do we want hell? The master teacher Jesus clearly said that heaven is at hand. It is right here, right now, within each and every one of us. However you want to identify that, however you want to describe that, however you want to experience that, truly is your choice. Or you can choose differently. Now, I'm not one to really promote that there is anything bad, wrong, or evil in the world. With the exception that my favorite teams are not playing in the Super Bowl. So, that set aside, I know that there's still something that's moving through this, that's coming into a greater experience, that says that I can look at it from a different perspective. That I can see that there is an opportunity that is presenting itself for all those individuals in the right place, in the right time, and in the right way. And if I can step back and be in that place of the observer, to be in that place of knowing truth in the infinite and the absolute, then the little details that play themselves out in the day-to-day life just become that experience that is showing up as each of us individually move through some expression, some experience, some condition, and we create a thought pattern, or sometimes we're drawing upon a thought pattern that has been given to us through our childhood, through our parents, our teachers, our friends, our neighbors, however it shows up. We begin to accumulate all of that, and we begin to believe that the truth that is absolute is that which I see in the outer world. And so I start to live from a place of outside of me, and I see what's out there, and I say, oh, that must be the truth, and so I try to bring it into my experience, into my life, and of course whatever I bring into my life is what I'm going to reflect back out. So if I'm seeing disharmony and dis-ease and disillusionment and war within the world, and I begin to take that in as that's the only way, that must be the truth, that's all that is available for me in my choice, then I begin to reflect that back out. So Ernest Holmes, in his effort to try to bring a new way of thinking, a new way of approaching life, early on in the writing of the textbook, began to describe this idea of how it is that we bring reasoning into our experience and into our expression. And so he wanted to, early on in the textbook, try to make that clear so that we would have a foundation, the place upon which we could build the rest of the study and the rest of our philosophy to move forth. Now, what I have found in my observation in the 20 years of being a licensed practitioner is that this section on inductive and deductive reasoning was probably the most challenging for the most people for the most time. It just did not make sense. And I would bet that if you were to talk to many of the licensed practitioners around the world, probably many of them would bring up this section and say, this one just threw me for a loop, and continues to do so. And as I started to reread this one in order to prepare for today's message, I had to stop and really think about it, because it had once again become confusing to me. And I thought, this is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to stand up there and explain this because I don't get it. So let's talk about something else. But no, that's not the life of a minister. It shows up in your face. You have to deal with it. You have to face your fear. You have to conquer the unknown. You have to somehow step out into some place, somewhere, trusting that the